After 4 nannies failed, one amazing woman revealed a transformative connection with the CEO's twins. Sarah stood in the shadow of a breathtaking Manhattan skyline, feeling utterly out of place despite the city's vibrant energy. Shifting nervously beneath the weight of her laundry basket as she balanced 2 jobs, one at a local diner, arriving at dawn to serve coffee and pancakes, the other scrubbing bathrooms at a high-end cleaning service, it felt like the world was orchestrating an unrelenting symphony of exhaustion. Yet, as she gazed at the penthouse looming in front of her, she couldn't shake off the idea this could be a turning point. The CEO's offer to care for his twins was a lifeline, yet her heart raced with unease. What would it feel like to be part of their glitzy world? Would she even belong? The elevator door opened, revealing a pristine, marble-floored hallway where every echo felt tainted with judgment. Charlotte and Max were nestled in their domain, polished but emotionally sealed off from a reality they scarcely understood. What if I can't reach them? She questioned silently, recalling the 4 nannies before her, each a reflection of failure and resignation. The thought of becoming just another ghost in their lives churned uneasily in her stomach. Could a woman like her, scrubbing floors and serving meals, truly connect with the children of wealth? Her first encounter with the twins was marked by silence. Max's fidgeting hands and Charlotte's tight-lipped smile spoke of invisible burdens that stung at Sarah's heart. They carried their father's expectations, and the shadows of their perfectionism seemed heavier than any chore she'd ever completed. Here I am, a single mother struggling to give my kid a better life, and this is my chance to make change, she thought, but doubt gnawed at her spirit. As she observed them, she saw reflections of her own child, Jake. Fear and anguish hung like heavy clouds in the air. Did they fear, too, that they were invisible, just like she often felt? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weeks passed like a steady drumbeat, each day intertwining their lives further. Yet Sarah wrestled with an escalating internal conflict. Her heart ached for Charlotte and Max, their desires buried beneath parental pressures. Being the center of their world felt intoxicating. Yet she couldn't shake the gnawing sensation of inadequacy. Each laughter shared was a dagger twisting in her gut, as she wondered if she had the right to redefine their childhoods. But when Charlotte was bullied for her father's name, something within Sarah snapped into fierce resolve. Confronting the school, she felt the tense air around her thick with anticipation, turning her disbelief into a protective ferocity. The twins needed her courage. What if her struggles could empower them? The weight of vulnerability grew heavier, an even darker cloud looming as she reminded herself that she must fight like hell for them. Just as a knock sounded at the door, breaking her swirling thoughts and unsettling breath, Sarah realized the tremor of an unknown future loomed. Could she shatter the shackles of their esteemed privilege, or would she fall victim to the very barriers she sought to dismantle? The truth hung heavy in the air, thickening the tension around them all, and the chapter of their story remained unwritten, fraught with turmoil and uncertainty. The days began to melt into one another, yet Sarah gripped onto her newfound resolve with an iron fist. The initial moments of connection with Charlotte and Max soon evolved into something deeper, an emotional tapestry woven from whispered secrets after bedtime, laughter that echoed against the marble walls, and heartfelt moments disarming the polished exteriors the twins wore like armor. As each day passed, Sarah carved out a piece of herself within their complex world. She sought through the pristine glass walls and designer furniture, searching for glimpses of the children beneath the layers of expectation. Yet, the nagging voice of doubt continued to whisper. Had it been the vulnerability she shared during those late-night talks that had drawn them closer? Or was it simply her role as a caretaker that cloaked her in temporary significance? Just as she began to feel worthy, a fleeting sense of belonging flickered and faded like a candle in the wind. One evening, while Charlotte confided her dreams of becoming an artist, the conversation took a darker turn. I can't, the girl murmured, her fingers trembling against her sketchbook. What if I fail? The tremor in Charlotte's voice shot straight through Sarah, igniting a protective fire within her. Failure. It was a specter they both understood, lurking behind the facade of privilege and perfection. With Jake at home, Sarah had learned how to embrace failure. It wasn't a dead end but a doorway to growth. Failure is just a part of the journey, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the swirling thoughts within. Every artist paints some wrong strokes. What matters is that you keep going. She hoped her own experiences could resonate as a lifeline instead of fear. As courage resonated in her words, Charlotte's eyes shone with unshed tears, and for the first time, Sarah witnessed a genuine smile break through the girl's mask. The emotional toll, however, was not without repercussions. As Sarah ventured deeper into the twins' world, the walls of her own life felt like they were beginning to close in. A demanding schedule at the diner and the cleaning service strained her energy reserves. Her nights spent comforting the twins would seep into the next day, making it difficult to focus at work. It had been a long time since she had felt this level of exhaustion, the kind that sawed through her resolve like a dull knife. One afternoon, driven by fatigue and the weight of intertwined lives, Sarah lashed out at a coworker for a minor offense, her frustration boiling over in a sudden eruption. She immediately regretted it, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. What was happening to her? The burdens she had undertaken were veering into masochism, and in the chaos, she feared she was losing not only herself but also the connections that had begun to flourish with Charlotte and Max. That moment of blurring identity ignited a pivotal decision within her. She needed boundaries. If she continued to deplete herself, what good could she do for Charlotte and Max? But how could she explain this complexity to two children, whose life experiences had unfolded within their father's expansive wealth? The thought terrified her. Just as she plotted her course towards a balance, another knock resounded at the door, louder this time, echoing the thunder in her heart. An unexpected visitor could change everything yet again, possibly unraveling the tentative threads that connected them all. The moment hung heavy, and she felt a crossing of paths, a turning point beckoning in the impending arrival. Would her choices forge a path toward clarity, or would they lead her deeper into chaos? The door creaked open slowly, revealing a familiar figure that made Sarah's heart clench. It was Elena, the previous nanny who had left unexpectedly, her face a mask of regret. Elena had seemed so confident, so capable, and now she stood there, appearing small and vulnerable. The unsettling energy in the room shifted as Sarah processed the sight, her mind racing through the implications of this unexpected reunion. "Sarah," Elena began, her voice thick with emotion. "Can we talk? I didn't mean for things to end the way they did." The urgency in Elena's eyes was clear. Sarah hesitated, battling a swirl of conflicting feelings. This was a woman who had been part of the twins' lives, someone who had failed them. Was reopening that door wise, or were they still fanning the flames of uncertainty? Yet, the drive to understand pushed her forward. Underneath the layers of shared history, there lay a potential revelation about the fragile bond she had only begun to cultivate with Charlotte and Max. "I'm not sure what you want to discuss," Sarah replied cautiously, her voice steady yet guarded. She took a step back, inviting but withholding, determined to protect her newfound connection with the twins. "I saw how well you were getting on with them," Elena continued, "and I just couldn't leave without explaining myself. I thought I was doing what was best, but I see now it was selfish." Her words hung heavily in the air. As Elena shared her struggles, her own burdens sniffed at the edges of privilege, and her sense of inadequacy. Sarah listened intently, feeling a stirring recognition. Here was a woman who had faced similar monsters, who had attempted to forge a connection and found herself lacking. The realization that their paths had crossed not just by coincidence, but by silent understanding created a split in her resolve. "You could have fought for them," Sarah said, her voice betraying a hint of her own frustrations. The scars of shared defeat opened. Sarah couldn't help but see a bit of her own struggle in Elena's narrative. "I thought I'd be enough," Elena admitted, her eyes shimmering with regret. "But the pressure was too much. I kept thinking, what if I fail? Just like Charlotte. Just like you." This statement rattled Sarah, who had just fortified her resolve to guide Charlotte through her fears. Wasn't it a form of failure to close herself off from understanding? To avoid the painful realizations spurred by Elena's return? This was a chance to gain insight, to gather tools that could turn uncertainty into growth, for both of them. "You're right," Sarah finally said, steadying her resolve. But I can't let that failure define me or them. I need to create space for what helps them, not hinders. A tension eased between them, the air filled not only with shared burdens but a budding sense of camaraderie. They began to talk about the twins, about strategies, about allowing vulnerability to flow as part of their growth process. Each conversation chipped away at Sarah's fear, each laughter and shared pain wove her more tightly into the fabric that surrounded Charlotte and Emma X. As the intense dialogue unfolded, an unexpected ember of determination ignited within Sarah. She had been given a glimpse of her enemy's doubt and frustration, insecurity woven into the threads of her decision-making. Yet now she stood here, stronger and more focused than ever. However, the more she learned from Elena, the more the specter of negligence loomed. Would they clash united against their fears? Or would their shared past unravel the delicate knit Sarah had weaved with the twins? Just as clarity began to surface around her path, another thought pierced through. Could their revelations forge a necessary alliance? Or would it threaten all she had built with Charlotte and Max? The night deepened and Sarah realized the stakes had heightened. The bond she'd begun nurturing with these children could pivot on her ability to navigate this interwoven complexity. That was the moment. Could she embrace it? Or would it become chaining shackles to her hopes? The next morning, Sarah awoke with an insistent buzzing in her mind. She had avoided sleep-induced panic, but her resolve was now challenged by the weight of yesterday's conversation. It was time to fortify her relationship with Charlotte and Max, but did she truly possess the tools she needed? The twins were already seated at the breakfast table, a cheerful buzz filling the air as they chatted about the day ahead. Sarah paused outside the dining room, watching them. Here were two lives shaped by grief and uncertainty, yet their laughter rang out like music, fragile and hopeful. Could she become the constant they so desperately needed? With each step into the room, she felt a mixture of trepidation and determination. "Good morning, you two," she said, forcing a smile that she hoped radiated confidence. "What do you think about a little adventure today?" Their eyes sparkled at the notion, and Charlotte immediately piped up, "Are we going to the park? Can we take Chester?" Max grinned, bouncing in his seat as he imagined the possibilities. "Absolutely," Sarah replied, buoyed by their excitement. "Let us get ready and we can pack a picnic." However, as Sarah prepared sandwiches, her thoughts drifted back to Elena and that thin line between failure and determination. She needed a plan, an anchor to guide her and the children through the complexities that lay ahead. The notion of creating a safe space for those painful conversations was resurrected in her mind. Growth didn't blossom in comfort. It flourished in confrontation with the shadows that lingered. "Do you want peanut butter or turkey?" she asked, glancing back at Max, who was deep in thought about the day's adventure. "Turkey," he said slowly. "What do you think we'll find at the park today?" "Maybe some new friends or perhaps a treasure hidden in the grass," she said. Her enthusiasm spurred by the feeling of control every sandwich crafted felt like a bridge toward a shared adventure. After breakfast, they headed to the park, the cool air invigorating Sarah's spirit. As they strolled, the laughter of children, the barks of dogs, and the rustling of trees all seemed to weave a tapestry of normalcy, one she desperately wanted to maintain. They found a serene spot beneath a sprawling oak tree, its branches offering scattered dappled sunlight. Spreading the checkered blanket, Sarah looked at the twins and decided that this moment held infinite potential. "Okay, let us talk about what we want to do this week," she suggested, heart racing, wanting to capture the conversation's direction. Charlotte's face contorted slightly, her enthusiasm fading in an instant. "I don't want to what if we can't? Or what if it's just a waste of time?" Max ventured, a shadow looming over his excitement. The words cut through Sarah like ice, but also sent a spark through her resolve. She remembered Elena's admission of fear and uncertainty. "You know," she began slowly, "I felt that way too. Every time I've had to make a choice, I've wondered if it's right. But if we don't try, we won't find out what's possible." The silence that followed stretched on, laden with uncertainty. It felt like crossing a tightrope, but as much as they were both retreating, they were also accepting small sparks of truth. They could embrace failure together. Max spoke first. "What if we imagine the best things that could happen?" "Yes," Charlotte added, her eyes brightening. "Like a magic treasure hunt." Sarah smiled wide, her heart swelling with pride. "Exactly. Can be creative, and the only requirement is that we try. We can fail together. Doesn't that sound like fun?" With renewed vigor, They shared ideas, crafting a whole week of plans that danced between imagination and possibility. Sarah became acutely aware of their growing trust, each laugh a strand weaving their connection tighter, every shared fear simmering beneath. But as the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting shadows around them, Sarah could feel an unsettling tension threading its way back into her thoughts. Were they constructing a beautiful illusion? And could she actually sustain this sense of joy while confronting their past? The gnawing question lingered. Did she really have what it took to lead them? Or was she walking down a path of fragility? As they packed up to leave, a thought clawed at Sarah's mind, a new revelation she didn't yet have the courage to voice. She would have to face it head-on. Would the journey ahead solidify the novel connection she dreamed of? Or would it summon echoes of failures past? She took a deep breath, promising herself to confront the uncertainty that awaited. Tomorrow would bring more clarity, and perhaps reveal the truth she had yet to embrace about herself, and how it could redefine their lives once and for all. The morning light poured through the kitchen window, illuminating Sarah as she stood at the counter, mixing pancake batter and watching for the twins to join her. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, a resolve fueled by the laughter they had shared at the park. Yet, lingering doubts continued to flicker in her mind like an unsteady candle. Each challenge served as a reminder of her fragility, and she wondered how to leverage that vulnerability into strength. "Can I help?" Charlotte asked, peering over the edge of the counter with wide, expectant eyes. This simple offer shifted Sarah's internal landscape. It shifted from mere survival to an opportunity for collaboration. Together they empowered one another. It was a spark she had longed for, yet never recognized until now. "Of course. Can you grab the eggs from the fridge?" Sarah replied, her heart warming. This partnership offered a glimpse into an unfamiliar territory where she could lead, while also allowing the twins to contribute. Bouncing ideas off one another felt as if they were forming an intricate tapestry woven from shared creativity. As they cooked, Sarah sensed the excitement bubbling up in the air, but beneath it lay the faint pulse of her anxiety. She recalled the dynamics of previous nannies, how their struggles had been compounded by her own insecurities. They had fled not just from the children's difficult moods, but from the avalanche of unresolved grief surrounding their lives. Each departure, her reflection told her, solidified her belief in defeat. "Why do you always look so serious when you cook?" Max piped up, flinging a spoonful of flour into the air. "Because," Sarah sighed, a smile playing at the corners of her lips, "I want to make sure it turns out well. But you're right, I should just enjoy it more." Max nodded, satisfaction etched on his face. His words were honest and straightforward, yet they shifted the layers of her psyche. What was the point in pursuing this connection if she wasn't present? Their growth together needed authenticity, the kind that came from breaking down walls instead of building them. After breakfast, as they sipped hot cocoa on the couch, Sarah couldn't shake the thought of the conversations yet to unfold. The foundation they were building felt fragile, yet the thought of carving into deeper emotions filled her with dread. What if the promise of joy was tainted by the burden of their shared past? It pressured her, each heartbeat echoing with the need for exploration but colliding with the fear of failure. "What's wrong, Sarah?" Charlotte asked, her innocent gaze piercing through the fog of uncertainty swirling within Sarah. Here was the perfect moment, one untouched by the weight of prior nights spent stewing in doubt. "I have an idea, but I don't want to scare you," Sarah said softly, weighing her words carefully. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about shaping a safe haven through honesty. It's about talking about feelings. It's hard, but I think it's important. What do you think? Max shifted, a clear mixture of reluctance and curiosity playing across his features. "Like when we think about the treasure hunts. When it gets really scary." "Yes, exactly. When we think of the treasure in that way, we're forced to be brave," she explained, her tone earnest and full of conviction. "Talking about our feelings will help us understand how to navigate hardships, just like we do in our adventures." The twins exchanged glances, hesitant yet intrigued. The tension weighed heavily, creating a palpable silence that buzzed between them all. "Okay," Charlotte finally replied, her voice trembling slightly. "If we can be brave about this, then maybe we can find something really good too." Sarah's heart swelled with potential, a burgeoning hope rapidly filling the gaps of her doubts. By inviting them into deeper conversations, she could help steer the ship through turbulent waters. But would they truly accept her intention? As she navigated this new commitment, all she could do was honor their brave choices. The day stretched ahead, filled with possibilities yet to be born. As they settled into a rhythm of playful banter and earnest expression, Sarah realized she was no longer simply guiding the twins. They were creating a shared foundation where all of them could thrive. But deep down, she sensed that true challenges were on the horizon, challenges that would either solidify their bond or tear them apart. The thought gripped her as the shadows of the room grew longer, an urgent whisper threading through her mind. Would the courage they all mustered survive the truth that awaited their discovery? The next chapter of their journey had begun, the stakes higher than any of them could see. The day drifted into afternoon, draped in a golden light that felt almost surreal. Sarah grasped the moment, knowing that yesterday's conversations, fraught as they were with promise and peril, needed careful nurturing. She glanced at the twins, who were sprawled on the living room floor, surrounded by crayons and paper. Their laughter was light, yet a subtle tension pulsed beneath it, an echo of the discussions they barely scratched. "Hey, how about a game?" Sarah said, initiating an idea that floated in her mind. It resonated with the spirit of their earlier conversation, one that would invite openness without the weight of direct scrutiny. "Let us draw our feelings. We can use colors to represent what we're experiencing." Max looked skeptical as he softened a crayon in his hand. "You mean like a feeling rainbow?" "Exactly. Let us see what colors our feelings are today," she encouraged, hoping that the engaging format would ease them into deeper self-reflection. As the colored wax hit paper, Sarah felt a tide of vulnerability rising. She knew that sharing emotions wasn't simply about understanding her charges. It was a mirror reflecting her own buried sentiments. Would they feel comfortable enough to share? Or would they retreat as others had done? Charlotte began scribbling in bold strokes, red and blue mixing in chaotic lines. When Sarah leaned in to observe, Charlotte eagerly looked up. "I'm feeling angry and a little sad," she confessed, the words tumbling out with unexpected weight. "That's brave, Charlotte," Sarah praised, her heart swelling at the girl's willingness to expose herself. "Would you like to talk about it?" In that instant, Sarah faced a choice: to lean in and embrace the emerging flood or pull back to protect her own heart from the undercurrents of those feelings. Her instinct urged her to linger, to navigate. "Maybe it's because of last week's storm," Charlotte mused, casting her gaze towards the window as though seeking clarification from the skies. "I was scared." Sarah felt a familiar sting in her chest. Memories flashed unbidden, a storm she herself had weathered, filled with its own chaos. "I remember storms can be scary," she replied delicately, "but they also pass. Do you think you'll be all right on the other side?" Charlotte nodded slowly, her brow creasing in thought. Their evolving dialogue filled the room, rich with layers of shared anxiety and budding resilience. "Can I try?" Max interrupted, eager to paint his own emotions into this shared tapestry. "I'm feeling mixed." His drawing was a jigsaw of colors, a visual riddle that Sarah saw as intricately tied to his experience. "Mixed can mean a lot," she encouraged. "What do the different colors represent?" He hesitated, grappling with the notion of exposing his inner conflict, a flush of embarrassment rippling through his cheeks. Happy but also afraid of being left," he whispered, his voice a wisp of fear. There it was, the truth blooming unexpectedly. "Max," Sarah asserted gently, her voice steady yet tender, "it's okay to be afraid of that. Everyone feels that way sometimes." In their exchange, Sarah's own mouth went dry. Fear of abandonment had haunted her life too, a discordant rhythm that clashed kaleidoscopically with her yearning for connection. "No one's leaving you," she affixed his gaze. Her assurance was as much for herself as it was for him. This exchange was not just a conversation. It was a shared journey toward healing, a tandem exploration of emotions forming irrigation channels for growth. But even as words flowed, a shadow coiled within her chest, whispering that true confrontation lay beyond this initial bond. The lingering thoughts, what if I fail them? What if they withdraw again? Battered against her resolve. With each crack in her facade, Sarah felt renewed but terrified. Would this bridge she was building withstand the elements waiting to be revealed? The shadow of unanswered pain loomed large, casting doubt on their newfound connection. As they continued to draw, a revelation sparked within her. Perhaps transparency was not just about sharing. It was also about witnessing her own courage in those moments. Okay, let us take this to the next level, she finally declared, her voice imbued with determination. Tomorrow we'll explore something deeper together. The twins exchanged curious glances, a mixture of excitement and uncertainty palpable in the air. What do you mean? Max asked, his voice a blend of eagerness and dread. Tomorrow we're going to have a feelings treasure hunt, Sarah responded, adrenaline coursing through her as she prepared for the challenge ahead. But for real this time we'll put our fears into the treasure map and see where they lead us. The twins' eyes widened, a mixture of thrill and anxiety written across their faces. This was the moment where they would either step boldly into growth or shrink back into their shells. Can we really do that? Charlotte breathed, hope glistening through her small voice. Yes, Sarah affirmed, her own heart caught between hope and trepidation. We're going to be brave together. As the shadows deepened outside, Sarah realized that she was on a precipice. The journey was about to shift, and she could either fall or soar with it. The stakes began to rise, leaving her to ponder whether they could truly face the demons lurking just beneath the surface. Awash in anticipation and fear of the unknown, she felt the stories tangled in their hearts beginning to weave together. But doubts lingered like a fading echo. Would they all emerge from this treasure hunt stronger? Or would it expose fractures deep enough to crack their fragile new bond? The chapter was closing, yet the promise of discovery beckoned, enticing all three toward a new horizon fraught with uncertainty and courage. The sun rose the next day, casting an indifferent glare across Sarah's determined face as she prepared for the feelings treasure hunt. The playful laughter of Charlotte and Max echoed from the poorly insulated rooms, but today, her own heartbeat was the loudest sound in her mind, racing with anticipation and the shadows of doubt. How could they even begin to unearth their fears and transform them into something tangible? The thought forced her to pause in the kitchen, teetering on the edge of uncertainty. As she brewed coffee, the familiar aroma failed to calm the frayed edges of her nerves. Each bubbling sound in the pot was a reminder of the risks she was about to lead the twins into. Would they share the buried truths that haunted them? Or would this venture backfire, plunging her deeper into the darkness with them? Doubt clawed at her insides. The ghosts of her own past surfaced, seizing her thoughts, nights spent wrestling with loneliness, the hollow ache of isolation that loomed large whenever she thought of her previous attempts at connection. She wiped her sweaty palms against her jeans and took a deep breath. This time she was not just guiding them. She was exposing herself too. After what felt like an eternity, she gathered her resolve and donned her teacher hat, the one that made her feel stronger, more capable. Today was not just about exploration. It was about confronting the fears that had kept her shackled for so long. Every moment she spent worried about them was a moment that didn't serve the purpose of their connection. Perhaps through her guidance, they could unravel the tangled threads of emotion she felt bound in. She set up the backyard. Overturned crates became tables. Sheets turned into tents. She noticed the twins peering from the doorway. Their wide eyes mirrored her own uncertainty, revealing an unspoken agreement that they were all stepping into the unknown together. Sarah felt an electrifying jolt at the thought that perhaps they were more courageous than she was. Okay, she called out, waving them over. Time for our treasure hunt. Charlotte's face lit up with enthusiasm, while Max still wore an expression that mingled excitement with apprehension. Together, they stepped outside and Sarah held up a roll of paper, her heart racing as she began to explain how they would turn their feelings into an actual treasure map. To find the treasure, Sarah began, her voice intentionally steady. We need to share where our fears are buried. Think of the emotions that weigh us down, the ones hiding in the darkness. We'll draw symbols on this map. Each symbol will mark a fear, and then we'll explore where these fears lead. The concept was utterly novel, yet it sparked intrigue. The children listened intently. Each minute their expressions shifted from confusion to understanding, then finally to a sense of ownership in this process. Sarah sensed that her own vulnerability was becoming the glue binding them together. Max stepped forward first. I feel like a storm is always waiting, and it just wants to ruin everything. His voice rang with a clarity that echoed across the garden, reflecting a depth she hadn't anticipated. The freshness of his honesty pricked at her heart, nudged at her, competing with her own fears for recognition. That sounds intense, Max, Sarah responded, her pulse quickening at the prospect of exploring such a profound sentiment. What color do you want to represent that storm on our map? Maybe dark gray, he said, his brow furrowed in thought. And some lightning too. His willingness to grapple with such a complex feeling ignited determination within Sarah. If they were willing to confront their storms, she had to summon her own tempest. Then Charlotte interjected, her fingers twirling nervously in her hair. I have a fear about being alone. What if you go away like the last nanny? The words cracked like glass in the air. In that moment, a wave of empathy washed over Sarah. This was no ordinary treasure hunt. It was unearthing raw truths, connections dripping with vulnerability. Charlotte, she said, her voice soft yet resolute. I'm here for you right now and I plan to stay. Let us mark that on our map too. As they began to draw together, Sarah felt the familiar tug of past failures whispering behind her, what if this didn't lead to growth, but to isolation? But now the stakes were changing. This shared activity was paving a path toward interdependence rather than isolation. Every stroke of the crayon illustrated their personal struggles, and for the first time, Sarah felt the gnawing doubt civilize into a flicker of hope. Their truths told through shapes and colors drew them closer. But emotions were delicate threads. Would the map they crafted withstand the emotional navigation ahead? As they completed the map, Sarah caught her breath, contemplating what lay ahead. Each constructed symbol was not merely a fear but a bridge toward healing, both for the twins and herself. As she looked at them, two shining faces entranced by their combined creation, she felt a weight lift. But she also realized the intensity was only beginning. Now, she said, raising her voice to mask the whirlwind of emotion brewing inside her, it's time for our adventure to begin. Let us find this treasure hidden within our fears. As they stepped away from the sketch on the lawn, uncertainty circled again in Sarah's mind. What awaited them as they ventured deeper into vulnerability? Would the treasure reveal resilience or fractures she had not prepared for? The palpable tension hung in the air. The treasure hunt was only the first step into an exploration of courage, and as they marched forward, Sarah's resolve was tested anew, challenging the very essence of what it meant to lead and connect. With the horizon ahead seemingly limitless and fraught with both promise and peril, she braced for the tightly woven tapestry that awaited them. Would they discover the victory of inner strength, or become ensnared in the shadows that lurked? As they stood at the edge of the backyard, the map fluttering between them like an unsteady heartbeat, Sarah felt the weight of responsibility intensify. Each symbol they had crafted represented an emotional landscape she instinctively recognized as fraught with potential chaos. She had known this day would arrive when she would have to lead them not just into an adventure, but through the turbulence that emotions often bring. Okay, let us start with Max's storm, she said, her voice trembling slightly as she turned back toward the twins. Where do you think this storm leads us? Max appeared thoughtful, tracing his finger over the dark gray scribble on the map. Maybe it's always around waiting for it to rain, like when I feel overwhelmed with schoolwork. Sarah absorbed his words, feeling a cocktail of pride and concern. He was not just naming his fear. He was linking it to external pressures, glimpsing how anxiety could latch onto daily life. Max's vulnerability was refreshing, a reminder of the barriers she had erected in her own life, barriers made of self-doubt and hesitant words. She envisioned a small child's fingers clenching a storm cloud and felt her shoulders notch upward, both inspired and intimidated. What do you think we can do when the storm arrives? She probed gently. Maybe we can build an umbrella? He offered, his gaze shifting from uncertainty to possibility. Something that can keep us dry when it rains. And what would that umbrella look like? Sarah pressed, her heart swelling at the creativity brimming from within him. A willingness to conceptualize solutions instead of succumbing to the storm was a skill she wished to harness for herself. It's hope, Charlotte chimed in, surprising Sarah with her clarity, her previous apprehensions momentarily forgotten. We can imagine a rainbow. The colors can help us feel better. Her enthusiasm radiated, illuminating the shadowy corners of doubt. A smile broke across Sarah's face, illuminating the confines of her trepidation. They were navigating not only through fears but crafting a pathway toward resilience and ingenuity. Yes, let us mark those colors on the map. This umbrella of hope can protect you from the storm anytime it appears. As they took turns adding swathes of their envisioned umbrella, Sarah began to grasp the power of this experience. The treasure hunt was no mere activity. It was a portal to honest expression, an avenue for her to shed the armor of her own shortcomings. However, with every pulse of their creativity came a tinge of discomfort, as Sarah had to confront how she had managed storms in her life. Now, about Charlotte's fear being alone, Sarah continued, her voice steadying as she faced the children. What do we do if that fear comes to visit? Charlotte's expression momentarily faltered. What if you leave and no one else comes? Her voice trembled slightly, a fragile echo of worry resonating through every word. The question hung heavy in Sarah's heart, weaving a thread of longing and recognition. It was a question she had faced before, yet there was something poignant in the way Charlotte framed it. You know, sometimes things that scare us help us find connection, Sarah responded, searching for the right words. Even when we feel alone, we can still lean on the memories of the people who care about us, and we can create new friendships. We can wear cozy sweaters, Max interjected, eager to participate, that remind us of all the hugs we've had. They burst into laughter at his idea, simple yet profound. The idea resonated with an appreciation for warmth and belonging. But underneath the warmth lay an unacknowledged fracture she feared might deepen. Let us draw those sweaters on our map too, Sarah suggested, reinforcing Max's metaphorical thread, something tangible to represent their connections, both past and hoped for. Each marker appeared as not just a navigational tool but a promise. Sarah allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, they could all stumble through the shadows and emerge together. Yet, a nagging question lingered as they continued, adding elements to their map, a question steeped in her own experiences. Would her intentions withstand the strain, or would they too wear thin under emotional storms? As a teacher, her integrity rested on guiding them safely through. As an individual, she was wondering whether she had the approval to include her own vulnerabilities amidst their growth. The laughter wove a tapestry of resilience and connection, crafting memories that could act as shelters against future storms. Yet in the midst of their joyous creativity, a dark cloud returned to overshadow her thoughts. What if her efforts also summoned the very fears she aimed to dissipate? Would she fall short in ways she had yet to uncover? Okay, treasure hunters, Sarah declared, her voice a mix of authority and hesitation. I think it's time we actually venture forward. Let us follow our map and see where it takes us. As they prepared to step into the unknown, Sarah's heart pounded, the stakes rising as the boundary between teacher and learner began to blur. She felt the pull of commitment, an enticing yet daunting invitation, and an anxiety began to settle around her edges. In this prickly moment of honesty, she understood. Crossing that threshold was necessary for growth. But what kind of treasure would they find? With the twisting path ahead, Sarah inhaled deeply, aware that the true adventure lay not just in discovering fears, but in revealing the strength hidden within their shared vulnerability. The shadows beckoned enticingly, bold revelations waiting to be uncovered. Would her journey of discovery align with the twins? Would they find a treasure more valuable than they could have anticipated? In the distance, the summer breeze rustled the leaves, whispering promises of change. As they stepped away from the familiar comfort of the backyard, Sarah felt a tremor of uncertainty grip her chest. The map, now vibrant with symbols of hope and connection, seemed daunting as the path ahead unfurled under the soft afternoon sun. Each step forward peeled back layers of her professional facade, revealing a raw, unadulterated vulnerability that both excited and terrified her. Do you think we'll find the treasure soon? Max asked, glancing back with eager, hopeful eyes. Charlotte was more quiet, her small fingers brushing against the paper, tracing the lines that represented their fears and dreams. What do you think treasure looks like? Sarah replied, wanting to shift the focus away from her own anxieties. Max's face lit up. It's like bravery. If you're brave, you can do anything. Bravery, she murmured, the word landing in her mind like a stone in still water. It had always been something she admired, a quality she wanted to embody yet often felt out of reach. She had encouraged both twins to embrace their fears, but how often had she failed to acknowledge her own? As they ventured deeper into a grove of trees bordering the backyard, the sunbeams flickered like thoughts racing through her mind, illuminating moments she hadn't addressed. Wasn't she, too, in need of an umbrella, something that would shield her from the self-doubt that clouded her every effort? Wait! Charlotte exclaimed, breaking the trance. She pointed to a nearby tree, its trunk gnarled and marked with time. It's a path. Look, Her finger quivered with excitement as she began to circle the tree, her small voice infused with a newfound sense of purpose. What if this takes us to our treasure? Or helps us find something even more valuable? Sarah suggested, her heart quickening at the thought. Could this chaotic adventure also guide her to her own clarity? The twins crowded around the tree, each of them marking the map with a bright green X, a gesture of ownership in their journey. Sarah felt a rush of emotion. They weren't merely following her lead, they were carving out their destinies, one mark at a time. Can we be brave like superheroes? Max asked, his spirit infectious, lifting her mood. Absolutely, she agreed. But as the words flew from her mouth, she felt the weight of her own denial pressing down. Would she commit to the kind of bravery that required exposing her authentic self, flaws and all? What would it mean to fully embrace this role not only as a guide, but as an imperfect human navigating unpredictability? As they moved, Sarah prompted Charlotte again. What about being alone? Where would you want to escape if you had to face that fear? Maybe somewhere special, she responded, her eyes darting about as if searching for something tangible. Like a magical place where you can't feel alone. Or where we can be brave together, Max added. The layers of meaning buried within those suggestions resonated deeply with Sarah. She ached for that magical place, to a realm where she could be free of internal judgments and self-sabotage. A wish flashed vibrantly in her mind, to create a safe haven for not just the twins but also herself. Her resolve began to crystallize. She didn't need to have all the answers to lead effectively. Embracing her vulnerability could actually allow others to meet their own. Steering her thoughts back toward the adventure, she noticed an unsettling absence between the laughter and exploration, a hint of dread lurking. What if the shadows weren't mere fears but also the judgments she harbored against herself? And what of the possibility that by stepping into the unknown, she'd ultimately confront those very judgments? Just then, a rustle from the underbrush startled her. The children jolted, and their hands clutched the map tighter. What was that? Charlotte's voice quivered slightly, and Sarah felt her heart race in response. It's okay. Let us just be brave, Sarah said, forcing herself to project confidence even as a knot twisted in her stomach. Would they all pull together, or would they recoil into their own fears? The tension hanging in the air created a pressure cooker of emotions. What awaited them just beyond the trees? Every conflicting thought spun around in her mind as they drew closer to the sound. What if it's a monster? Max whispered, eyes wide with apprehension. Or maybe it's something that needs us, Charlotte whispered back, the innocence of her thought striking Sarah profoundly. In that moment, Sarah realized that the real treasure wasn't merely waiting behind every corner. It lay in the rich discovery of themselves, ready to embrace every twist and turn along the way. As they prepared to face whatever awaited them, she encouraged the twins to take a collective step forward. They approached the underbrush together, anticipation crackling in the air, a testament to both their bravery and her commitment to growth. What invisible barriers might they shatter today? What shadows would they confront, transforming fears into newfound strength? Just then a rustling emerged again, louder this time, and savagely broke the stillness. Together they held their breath, stepping into the unknown as excitement mingled with dread. As the source of the sound became clearer, Sarah braced for whatever revelation lay ahead for herself and for the twins. Would they uncover a monster lurking in the dark, or a powerful ally invited to join their journey? Emerging from the underbrush, a small rabbit trembled at the feet of the children, its wide eyes reflecting a world of instinctual fear. Sarah's heart raced, uncertainty colliding with a wave of relief. The tension that had enveloped them shattered as laughter bubbled forth from the twins. Look, it's a treasure, Max exclaimed, the magic of innocence illuminating his face. It's just a little bunny, but yes, it is, Sarah affirmed, encouraged by their joy. In that moment, she recognized what had transitioned from fear into something beautiful. Sudden laughter overrode anxiety, a warm reminder that connection often flourished in the unlikeliest encounters. This little one is braver than it knows, Charlotte observed, her eyes sparkling as she knelt to inspect the rabbit further. Maybe it was hiding from its own fears too. As they took turns making gentle, sympathetic observations, Sarah felt the sense of accomplishment swell within her. They were transforming alive moments of curiosity into growth realizations, standing shoulder to shoulder in a new type of healing. Remember our map? Sarah said softly, kneeling beside the twins. This bunny can help us. It represents all the ways we can face our fears together. Max giggled. It's our guide to bravery. Exactly, Sarah affirmed, her voice a mixture of pride and realization. She sensed each timid heartbeat of vulnerability were not weaknesses. They were the very scaffolding for resilience. As the rabbit timidly hopped away, the children rushed back to their map, unearthing inspiration in this unexpected moment. Let us add it. A little bunny for bravery, Max suggested enthusiastically while Charlotte nodded in agreement. The three of them added a scribble of brown to the map, a vibrant representation of their unwavering curiosity. Each stroke of color resonated a silent promise that they would cultivate not just the courage to face fears, but the joy and kinship that accompanied their journey, an unexpected treasure revealed without needing to dig. Encouraged by the connection they had formed, Sarah began addressing the deeper aspects of her own journey, hosting unprocessed storms swirling within. She turned to the twins. I think I've been a little afraid too, she confessed, her voice steadying. I often worry about not being enough for you. It's a fear I carry. The twins looked at her in surprise, eyes wide but not judgmental, just genuine curiosity. I thought I was meant to be your guide, but I want you to know that sometimes I struggle too, Sarah continued boldly. In showing you how to face your fears, I'm also learning how to face my own. Together we can create a space where we're all brave. Their shared vulnerability invigorated the air, opening a pathway for deeper connections. It prompted Charlotte, nudging at her own bravery. Then we can help each other. You'll always be enough for us, won't you? She stated with childlike sincerity. Sarah felt overwhelmed by warmth, the full circle of connection blooming in both shared fears and jubilant understanding. Promise. I will work to be present for you both as you are for me. By the end of their adventure, they had woven an intricate tapestry of experiences marked with symbols of hope, creativity, and authentic belonging. Their journey through the grove became not only an exploration of their fears but a triumphant reaffirmation of their newfound trust. Days turned into weeks, each filled with laughter, the three of them sharing late-night talks and midnight snacks, with their worries unraveling through expressive conversations. Sarah watched as Charlotte's sketches filled the walls, vibrant colors bursting with movement and emotion, while Max's excitement turned to newfound confidence in his interests. She felt transformed, not simply as a caregiver but as an empowered advocate guiding them all toward expression. Her orchestrating fear began dissolving into a transformative acceptance of failure as instrumental growth. The shadows of her past were still there, but Sarah learned to embrace them, not as weaknesses but as signposts guiding forward. She was proud navigating the road toward vulnerability had allowed her to explore a depth previously thought unreachable and foster supportive connections that went beyond social obligation. Validation for her journey came when the CEO noticed tangible changes in his children's emotional landscapes. At their next family dinner, he remarked, "Charlotte, I've seen so much progress in you since Sarah came on board. You're expressing yourself beautifully. Max, I can see you're radiating confidence these days. What's your secret?" "This," Charlotte exclaimed, pulling out their treasure map, colored and embellished with exuberance. "She showed us how to be brave." Max joined in, his spirit infectious, "and to figure out what we feel. We're not afraid of storms anymore." The CEO's eyes glimmered with appreciation, stunned yet proud at witnessing the children's emotional growth. Sarah felt solidified in her competence. The overwhelming sense of accomplishment surged through her. She had created not just a household of familiarity but a family ethos of communication and trust. She stepped out onto her balcony overlooking Manhattan. Another wave of contentment washed over her. She had conquered her doubts, transforming them into stepping stones of compassionate connection, leaving her fulfilled and ready to embrace whoever emerged next in their lives. Sarah knew this was not simply an ending. It was a promise, an unyielding commitment to remain a supportive beacon for Charlotte, Max, and for herself. Your journey towards self-discovery and resilience matters. Don't just watch, come join us. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really helps us grow. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and stand by those seeking to transform their lives. Don't wait even one more second.